Good evening and welcome to the Save Soil movement. My name is Allison and I'm a volunteer for Conscious Planet. Sadhguru has launched the Conscious Planet and the Save Soil movement as an initiative to raise the awareness of over 3.5 billion people to the alarming condition of our soil. This movement is now being supported by many global leaders, including Jane Goodall, Deepak Chopra, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tony Robbins, Mark Benioff, among many others. And it is also now supported by many international institutions, including the United Nations CCD. This is the Convention to Combat Desertification. The UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Protection Program. The World Food Program, the Food and Agricultural Organization, and the World Economic Forum, among many others. Now, why soil? Well, what we all have heard about, many things, about climate change. For the last 2 decades, there has been so much talk about fossil fuels, industry, the production of excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and the damage that it is causing to our water and our wind, droughts, floods, water scarcity, agricultural yields are down, hurricanes increasing. All of these things we are either learning about through media or even experiencing firsthand. But what many of us may not be aware of is the alarming condition of our soil. Did you know that 40% of the climate change problem is caused by soil degradation? Myself, I did not know this 2 years ago. But soil degradation receives only 4 to 5% of the global annual budget towards climate change education and remediation. So this is the most overlooked problem in climate change, and yet it is the biggest problem affecting climate change. And what you may not be aware of is that we're on the threshold of the largest food scarcity crisis in the history of this planet. Leading scientists are estimating that more than 1.7 billion people will perish by 2045 due to the degradation and extinction of our world's topsoils. 1.7 billion people. To give you a perspective, that would be the populations of all of North America, all the countries of South America, and all the countries of Europe combined. That would be if the whole Western world perished. It is an enormous problem of epic proportions, unlike anything we have ever seen in our modern times. Now, how to address this? One thing is, we need to effect a policy change. And how to effect a policy change can only be by educating a large portion of the population. how we can do this by educating people about soil and its contribution to the climate. Sadhguru will explain a little bit more about it.
We are talking about climate change, carbon emissions, and global warming and various other aspects, but we are not addressing soil. Soil is the habitat upon which zillions of lives thrive. Once there is no richness in soil, then you have forsaken the planet in many ways. Every responsible scientist in the world and the UN agencies are clearly saying we have only 80 to 100 harvests left. That means approximately 45 to 50 years of agricultural soil left on the planet. By 2045, we will be producing 40% less food than what we are producing right now, and our populations will be 9.3 billion people. The food shortages that could manifest in the next 25 years, the consequences of that is unimaginable. Civil wars will unfold across the world once there is food shortage. What we are facing now is soil extinction. Why is soil becoming extinct? Where is it going away? What is happening to our soil? We must understand, if you add organic content to sand, sand will turn into soil. If you remove all organic content from the soil, soil will become sand. In normal agricultural soil, the minimum organic content should be between 3 to 6%. The most minimum is 3%. At least this minimum to keep the soil alive, to keep the soil as living soil is a must. Agricultural soils across the world, the depletion is so heavy, in most countries, more than 50% of the topsoil is already gone in the last 100 years. The nutrient levels have dropped significantly. The level of micronutrients you would get from your food in early 20th century to what you are getting from the same food now has dropped 90%. If you ate one orange in 1920s, what you got from it, now in 2020, if you have to get the same, you will have to eat 8 oranges. This is what we have done to our food.
Soil is the biggest ecosystem on the planet, and so few people know anything about it. 1 teaspoon of healthy soil probably contains more microbes than there are people on Earth.
The microbial life in the first 12 to 15 inches of topsoil is the basis of our existence. It is this magic beneath our feet which has produced the life that we are. This first 12 to 15 inches of soil is the basis of life for 87% of life on this planet, including you and me.
We have to begin to recognize that what we call our soil, Mother Earth, is a living organism.
Open soils, ripped open by ploughing, open to sunlight, is the basis of destruction of microbial life. So the focus should be on agriculture, the focus should be on seeing that land is under shade as much as possible, some kind of shade, grasses, herbs, bushes, trees. Conscious Planet is launching Save Soil movement to bring about a policy change to regenerate soil. As a part of this, I'm 65 and I'm riding 30,000 kilometers, a lone motorcycle journey, 30,000 kilometers across 24 nations to activate support from the citizenry to assure the governments long-term investments will be appreciated. So it's extremely important that soil regeneration is enshrined in the policy of every government on the planet. We must change the narrative on the planet that soil is a wealth, a legacy we have received from previous generations, and we have to pass it on as living soil for future generations. We are in a cusp of time. If you do the right things now, in the next 15 to 25 years, we can significantly turn this situation around and regenerate the soil. But if we allow this to progress like this for another 30 to 40 years, After 40 years, if we attempt this, then it could take 150 to 200 years because that much loss of biodiversity would have happened. From 21st of March for 100 days, the whole world, every human being on the planet should talk soil. We must hear the word soil, save soil everywhere to see that the narrative on the planet changes towards the most vital aspect of our life, the soil. Each one of you should reach as many people as you can to make this happen. Many global leaders and influencers are already participating in the movement. Be a part of this and let us make it happen.
From my part, as much as I can contribute.
We're going to save the soil. Do your part.
And saving the soils.
Our future, our children's future, and our planet's future depend on it.
Save the soil.
We know what we must do, so let's make it happen.
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 So the Save Soil movement is unique in many aspects and make it uniquely capable of effecting such a huge change. One thing is, the Save Soil movement is a people's movement. This is not a protest. This is not activism. This is a campaign to raise awareness of 60% of the world's electorate. This is an awareness campaign to effect change in policy and support a long-term action plan. Now, why policy? Policy has the ability to predetermine the course of action, and it helps establish guidelines towards a certain goal. The goal that we need to establish is 3% organic content in soil. 3% organic content is what Sadhguru is referring, turning sand into soil. 3% organic content is what is needed to ensure that our soil produces food securely, and it is aligned with the activity of nature. The natural alignment with nature is there. So 3% of soil organic content is needed in the soil, so this policy is needed. One example of such a policy change. In the 1970s, scientists were noticing that CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, were creating a hole in the ozone layer over Antarctica. In 1985, this hole was confirmed by pictures generated in the sciences by scientists. By 1987, 197 countries signed the Montreal Protocol, and today we have nearly closed the hole in the ozone layer by eradicating 99% of chlorofluorocarbons. All of this was established only because these 197 countries came together, established a treaty, and enacted that treaty. So a global policy is needed to make this change. Now, though Sadhguru has clearly stated that the main solution is to establish shade cover, how this shade cover can be established will be different for each region, depending on climate, culture, and socioeconomic conditions. Each country and each region will need to establish its own action plan for how to bring this 3% of organic content into the soil. So, though many individual organizations, individual people, and even countries have made great strides in doing various different types of environmental remediation to address climate change, it's still a drop in the bucket to what is needed to address such an immense problem. And as I mentioned earlier, soil itself has not been addressed in any real way. So what we're working towards globally is this policy change of 3% organic content. Now, how is it that Sadhguru is uniquely capable of creating such a policy change? One thing is, we have a proven track record. Isha, and Sadhguru in particular, has been involved in environmental initiatives for over 30 years. First starting locally with Project Green Hands in southern India. Project Green Hands earned a Guinness World Record for the most planting of trees in a single day. And today in that region, Over 14 million trees have been planted. Rally for Rivers was established a few years later in 2017 as an initiative to restore the 7 major lifelines or the 7 major rivers of India. And today it is established in the global mandates or in the national mandates for India. And Kaveri Calling is a river revitalization project in southern India, reestablishing the major river basin that feeds the southern state Tamil Nadu, India. So all of these thriving environmental projects are currently underway and are functioning as pilot projects that can be replicated successfully in other parts of the world. So now the Save Soil movement is an effort to take this to the global level, to address the global concern that we have and ensure that our children have a food future. Now, what can you do in such an immense problem as there? There are many simple things that you can do to help support this movement. One thing is you can educate yourself. Learn to talk 1 minute about saving the soil. You can visit consciousplanet.org. At our consciousplanet.org website, there is a lot of rich content relevant to soil restoration, including videos, talks, talking points, and all kinds of background information that you can use to support educating yourself and others about the Save Soil movement. You can also become an Earth Buddy. By becoming an Earth Buddy, you'll receive regular emails and information about how to educate others about the Save Soil movement and to stay in the conversation through social media and other outlets to help spread the word. You can also invite others to join the movement by joining these webinars or becoming an Earth Buddy, and also joining the conversation online through various social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, among others. And you can you can author your own creative posts, and they can be funny, serious, heartfelt, long, or short, but they should always be sincere. And ensure when you create your own post to include Conscious Planet, that handle, and the consciousplanet.org website in your posts so people can educate themselves fully. And also always ensure to use the hashtag #SaveSoil, so that the conversation can build momentum. ConsciousPlanet.org also includes social media toolkit, where you can learn how to use each platform, as each platform has unique qualities about it, and also rich and relevant content that you can post. And most importantly, you can follow Sadhguru's journey later next month, 21st of March. We will be doing a kickoff in London, UK, and Sadhguru will be traveling across 24 countries, helping to educate the Save Soil movement and build momentum. When you follow Sadhguru, continue to use the Save Soil hashtag. Now, Sadhguru will be going full throttle at this, so all of us are needed to help him to move this, to change our destiny towards having a healthier future for food for our children and our children's children. So it's a huge privilege for us to be a part of this history-making movement, and it's also a generational responsibility for us to join this movement. We would like to share one more video with you tonight to help educate you about the Save Soil movement, where Sadhguru, they will speak a little bit more about soil as a carbon sink for sequestering carbon dioxide.
Look around you. Everything you see came from the soil, whether it was mined and extracted or grown and processed. Human civilization is built on the foundation of soil, both figuratively and literally. Yet, how much do we give back? Globally, soil fertility is plummeting, with 1/3 of global soils already considered to be degraded. While many suggest we start looking for a new planet to ruin, I mean colonize, I suggest we learn how to take better care of what we already have. The good news is that healthy soils not only provide all we need, but they also help solve many issues human society has created. Earth is filled with carbon-based life forms, and most of that carbon is CO2 pulled from the atmosphere and used to build the roots, stems, trunks, leaves, every part of every plant. Not only do plants sequester carbon in their structure, they also deliver large amounts of carbon to the microcosmos of organisms that live in the soil. Organisms that modern farming practices destroy. The largest known release of CO2 comes each year when farmers around the world till their soil, ripping huge wounds in the skin of the earth and spewing out plumes of greenhouse gases that can be seen from space. Conversely, the greatest reduction in global CO2 emissions are seen when crops in those same fields begin to sprout in spring. What if we encouraged farmers around the world to adopt soil-friendly farming practices? Could the soil absorb all the carbon that humans emit? We've done the calculations, and earthworms alone gobble up and sequester in their fertile excrement the entire amount of CO2 in the atmosphere every 4 years. Worldwide, soil is estimated to contain nearly 1,000 times more carbon than in the atmosphere. What's the difference between sand and soil? Black, fertile carbon. We aim to prove that harmonizing global farming practices with the natural carbon cycles can not only neutralize human carbon emissions, but it would revitalize and restore the fertility of our soils in the process. We don't need expensive new technology to solve some of our biggest issues. We simply need to shift our practices to harmonize with a planet that has already figured out how to sustainably support life harmoniously.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us this evening and joining us for this webinar. We'll be hosting another webinar the same time tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central. Please invite friends and family to join who have not been introduced to this movement, and you're welcome to join us once again if you wish. Please take the time at the end of this webinar and visit the consciousplanet.org website, sign up as an Earth Buddy, and join the conversation. Thank you once again. Good night.